Archangel Michael has been whispering your name before the throne, fighting for a breakthrough on your behalf. But the decision rests on whether you receive this message in time. My beloved child, a trembling truth is rising around you, and Archangel Michael has pressed this message upon your spirit with urgent fire. He has been whispering your very name before the throne, not softly, but with the authority of one who has stood in the councils of heaven. And as he speaks, a record of battles fought on your behalf opens, battles you never saw, storms you never felt, dangers that never touched you because his sword intercepted them. But now something different is happening, something rarer, something that asks for your attention like a trumpet sounding at midnight. A divine decision is forming, and heaven has paused, waiting on whether you receive this message in time. Child of light, listen closely. Archangel Michael reveals that a breakthrough meant for your life is not simply drifting toward you. It is being fought for. Your name, your destiny, your unanswered prayers, your hidden wounds. They have all been carried into the throne room. And what heaven intends to release over you will not look small. It will not look delayed. It will not look partial. It will come like a door bursting open after years of silence. But Archangel Michael warns you, this is the moment where alignment matters more than desire. This breakthrough responds not to desperation but to recognition. Recognition that heaven is speaking directly to you. Now let your soul be still for a moment and feel this. There are seasons where angels watch. There are seasons where angels wait. But this is a season where angels war. Michael leans in with a message wrapped in urgency. Your spirit has been calling for release, but your heart has been unsure if heaven still remembers your name. I tell you, your name has not left the throne of God. I have whispered it again and again until the chambers shook. This is why strange emotions have been rising inside you lately. Why old memories have resurfaced. Why your sleep has felt heavier. Why your intuition has been louder than usual. Your spirit has been sensing the stirring of the angel who fights for you. And now the breakthrough he has been defending is ready. But he asks only one thing. Do not turn away from this message. Stay until the final word. Everything depends on whether you receive this in time. Listen carefully because this next truth carries weight. There is someone, something, or some pattern that has been hindering the release of what you prayed for. Not by overpowering you. No. You've always been stronger than you realized, but by draining your hope in small, subtle ways. But Michael says the interference has been identified. It has been confronted. It has been weakened. And you are stepping into the final moment where the last barrier breaks. You may not feel ready. You may not feel worthy. You may not feel prepared for a blessing that big. But heaven is not asking for your perfection, only your acceptance. And yet there is still a mystery unfolding. Michael shows a vision of a sealed door with your name carved into it. This door does not open by force, nor by fear, nor by frantic striving. It opens when your spirit recognizes a message that was meant specifically, intentionally, unmistakably for you. This one, there is a divine countdown over your life. Not a countdown to danger, but to opportunity. And what waits on the other side will shift the energy around your relationships, your finances, your stability, your peace, and even the clarity of your identity. Child, the moment your heart receives this, the angels assigned to your breakthrough accelerate. Feel this truth settle into your chest. The breakthrough isn't lost. The breakthrough isn't delayed. The breakthrough is waiting for your yes. And before this part ends, Michael asks me to tell you something powerful. You have not imagined the warfare. You have not imagined the attacks. You have not imagined the weight on your mind. As I whispered your name in heaven, I also shielded your name on earth. What comes next will prove that you were protected the entire time. So breathe. Focus. Stay here, because the next revelation will open a reality you never expected. Before you move, pause, because what is coming next will shift your understanding of why heaven has been stirring around you lately. Hold on. You'll want to see where this leads. Dip. I receive the breakthrough in the comments if your spirit feels the pull of this moment. Lesson code 411 has now been released. Chosen soul. Breathe gently as you step deeper into this unfolding revelation, for what you are about to hear carries the weight of a spiritual turning point. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of your destiny, and his sword, still warm from battle, rests against the threshold of your next season. In the halls of heaven, he has spoken your name with fierce devotion. But that devotion is not casual, not symbolic, not poetic. It is strategic, is intentional. It is tied to a breakthrough that has hovered around your life like a cloud, waiting for the moment to burst. When he whispered your name before the throne, the vibration of that sound shook loose every obstruction that had dared to attach itself to your journey. And yet, child of truth, the greatest shift begins not when angels move, but when your spirit awakens. There have been a spiritual pressure around you lately, a subtle stretching that you could not explain. Some nights have felt heavier, some mornings have felt uncertain. Thoughts that were quiet have grown louder. Feelings you pushed aside have resurfaced without warning. Events you thought unrelated have aligned with uncanny precision. You have not imagined this. Archangel Michael reveals that this is the evidence of heaven trying to get your attention because the window for your breakthrough has opened. But it will not remain open forever. There is a timing to this. The divine clock. A spiritual alignment that requires your awareness before the blessing fully manifests. For too long, your heart has tried to protect itself from disappointment. You have prayed. But part of you wondered if your prayers ever made it past the ceiling. You have hoped. But part of you feared that hope would betray you again. You have waited, but the waiting has drained you. And yet, child, heaven has been watching. Not your weariness, but your endurance. Not your doubt, but your courage. Not your fear, but your willingness to keep moving even when the path felt suffocating. That is why Archangel Michael was dispatched. Not because you were weak, but because you were chosen for a breakthrough that requires angelic intervention. He shows me something now, a parchment rolled and sealed, bearing your name in radiant lettering. This parchment contains a decree, a heavenly order, something spoken over your life before you ever entered the world. And now, after years of spiritual interference, that decree is being activated. The seal is cracking, the ink is blowing. But for it to be delivered, your spirit must recognize that this message is not random, not general, not vague, not meant for someone else scrolling past. It is meant for you. Specifically, you, unmistakably you. Archangel Michael reveals that you have been standing on the border of a shift so significant that the enemy has thrown confusion at you in small, subtle waves. A sudden exhaustion, That unexplainable discouragement, those moments when you felt disconnected from purpose, those strange emotions that rose without logic. They were not coincidences. They were interference. But every time Michael stepped into the battle on your behalf, the interference weakened, and now you stand in a moment where the final interruption is dissolving, allowing the breakthrough to draw near enough for your spirit to sense it. Heaven wants you to understand something vital. This breakthrough is not a reward. It is a restoration, a divine return of what was delayed, a return of the clarity you lost, a return of the confidence life tried to drain from you, a return of the doors that were meant to open long ago but were blocked by assignments that were never yours. And now, Archangel Michael stands with one final instruction. Open your heart to the message fully, because the decision heaven is waiting to release will not activate until your spirit acknowledges that this word was delivered right on time. There is a moment, a single divine moment where everything aligns. Heaven calls it the moment of recognition. Michael is urging you, do not miss it. In this moment, your next season is being decided, your future relationships, your financial stability, your healing journey, your emotional restoration, your spiritual clarity, your sense of identity, all of it is connected to the moment you accept that this message is more than words. It is a key. And now listen closely, because what comes next carries a truth that will pierce your understanding. Archangel Michael shows a vision of you standing before two paths. One path looks familiar, safe, predictable. The other path glows with golden light. But its visibility is limited. You can only see the first step, not the entire journey. Michael warns that the path of familiarity will keep you in cycles that heaven never intended for you. But the glowing path, the one illuminated by the throne's decree, will lead you into the breakthrough that has been fighting its way toward you. All heaven requires is a yes. A simple yes. A surrendered yes. Not a perfect one, but a willing one. Child, feel this truth. The moment your heart leans into this revelation, the angels accelerate. Doors that resisted begin to loosen. Delays begin to dissolve. You step into alignment with what was always meant to be yours. And Archangel Michael stands ready, watching your response. He is not distant. He is not silent. He is closer to you now than you realize. Something powerful is coming in the next revelation, and if your spirit has been stirring, it is because heaven is preparing to unveil a mystery that will give context to battles you never understood. Before this door opens, pause, breathe, and steady your heart. Trust me, this next part will shift the entire atmosphere around you. Type, I receive the sign in the comments if this message is stirring your spirit. Blessing code 5530 is now activated. Beloved one, let your heart lean in as you enter this deeper layer of the revelation, because what is unfolding now carries a weight that Archangel Michael has guarded for a long time. He tells me there are truths about your journey that have been withheld until this precise moment, not because heaven was silent, but because your spirit was not yet positioned to receive them. But now the veil has thinned. Now the atmosphere has shifted. Now the divine timing has ripened, and Michael stands before you, steady, radiant, and unwavering, ready to unveil what has been kept hidden behind the curtain of your delays, your questions, your doubts, and your silent battles. There is a seriousness in his presence now, a gravity that tells me this part carries the turning point of your story. He shows me a moment in your past, a time when you felt something break inside you. You may not speak of it often, but heaven took notice. You tried to move forward. You tried to stay strong. You tried to keep hope alive even when your inner world was trembling. And yet that moment left a spiritual echo, a residue that made it harder for you to believe that good things could still reach you. But here is the truth Michael wants you to hear with clarity. That moment did not disqualify your destiny. It did not stain your purpose. It did not silence your prayers. In fact, it became the very reason heaven dispatched him to fight for you with greater intensity. Archangel Michael reveals that your breakthrough is not merely an answer to prayer. It is a correction to everything that tried to diminish you. It is a divine reversal to every lie that whispered you were forgotten. It is heaven's response to every season where you felt unseen, unheard, unprotected, or unvalued. And now, as he whispers your name before the throne, the atmosphere around your life begins to shift in real time. Doors that were bolted shut begin to loosen. Battles that drain your strength begin to collapse. Patterns that held you in emotional cycles begin to break. This is not imagination. This is intervention. But there is something more. A deeper reason why the timing of this message matters. Michael shows me an hourglass turned upside down by the hand of heaven. The sand inside it flows steadily, intentionally, marking a season where your decisions carry unusual spiritual weight. There are times when heaven waits for your obedience. There are times when heaven waits for your understanding. But this is a moment where heaven is waiting for your agreement, your yes. Your recognition that this message is not an accident, but a divine appointment crafted for this phase of your journey. And child, Michael is asking you to break a pattern right now. A pattern where you dismiss signs. A pattern where you downplay spiritual nudges. A pattern where you assume the messages for someone else. Heaven is telling you to stop shrinking away from what is meant for you. Stop assuming you are unworthy of the blessing that is forming. Stop believing that breakthrough is something that happens to others while you only watch from the sidelines. Archangel Michael has been fighting for you because you are chosen, not forgotten, purposed, not passed over, protected, not abandoned. Now he shows another vision. I see you standing in a room with 3 closed doors. The first door represents opportunities you lost. The second door represents relationships that were removed. The third door represents blessings that were delayed. All 3 doors look permanent, as if they are sealed forever. But suddenly, Michael places his hand on the third door, the door of what was delayed. Light pours out from beneath it. The hinges vibrate. The lock melts and the door opens by decree, not by effort. Michael says something powerful here. What has been delayed is not denied. It has been maturing, strengthening, and preparing for the exact moment you would be spiritually ready to receive it. This is that moment. But now he gives a warning wrapped in love. He says, do not walk away from the message before the revelation completes. A heavenly decision is resting on whether your spirit stays aligned long enough to receive the full instruction. Your breakthrough is not fragile, but your recognition of it is essential. Heaven will not force what it intends to give. The blessing must be received willingly, consciously, openly. This is why you have been guided to this exact moment. Not earlier, not later, but now. And beloved, the enemy has known this moment was approaching. That is why the past few weeks or months may have felt heavier, more chaotic, more confusing. The pressure intensified, not because you were failing, but because you were approaching a spiritual release so significant that resistance tried to delay your awareness. But the resistance has weakened, the interference has cracked, and now you stand on the edge of a divine unveiling that will give meaning to every tear, every setback, every season of uncertainty. You may not feel strong right now, but you are. You may not feel ready, but you are. You may not understand everything yet, but you will. And Michael is here, waiting to reveal something even more profound in the next message. Something that will seal your understanding of why heaven has been whispering your name with such intensity. Before you move, pause, because what comes next will make sense of every unanswered prayer and every spiritual battle. Before you scroll, this is where the atmosphere truly shifts. Like this message, share it with someone who needs it, and speak life in the comments. Stay connected, stay expectant, and subscribe so you never miss what heaven is revealing through this journey. Type, "I am chosen for this" in the comments if this word resonates deep within you. Blessing code 724 is now activated. When a message like this reaches your spirit, it is not a coincidence, but a divine assignment. The same Archangel who whispers your name before the throne is calling many others into awakening, and your support becomes a seed that carries light into places where darkness once ruled. Heaven moves through people willing to fuel the mission, and every gift given becomes a river that spreads deliverance, clarity, and breakthrough to souls who need it. God is saying, even now, as you sow into my work, I open the heavens over your own life. For the scripture is alive and active when it speaks of harvest, increase, and overflowing oil. Hear this in first person. I invite you to stand with us as a carrier of this message, a partner in the very battle Archangel Michael is waging for countless lives. The title you just heard is not only a warning, but a mantle. And supporting this mission becomes an act of obedience wrapped in destiny. Those who give will be blessed with the same fire they help release, for heaven rewards every hand that participates in its work. Step into this moment with courage and activate it through Super Thanks membership or the PayPal link in the description. God commands the faithful to act, not hesitate. Precious soul, steady yourself as you cross into the next layer of this unfolding message, because what you are about to hear carries a depth that Archangel Michael has guarded closely until now. His presence rises around you with a quiet intensity, not loud, not forceful, but precise, deliberate, and deeply intentional. He reveals that the battle over your life has reached a critical point, one where spiritual forces have shifted positions, where angels are no longer simply defending you, but preparing to escort you into a season heaven hath been shaping behind the scenes. And this shift, this divine turning, is the reason he whispered your name before the throne with such urgency. Heaven has been preparing a release that requires your understanding, your acceptance, and your alignment. This moment is not accidental, is strategic. It is woven into the architecture of your destiny. Michael begins by showing me an image, a scene filled with symbolic meaning. I see you standing in a vast field with fog all around you. The fog represents confusion, uncertainty, and moments where life felt blurred. For a long time, it seemed as if you were walking through life without clarity. trying to trust God while feeling blindfolded. But now, something shifts. A wind begins to blow across the field, and the fog starts to lift. The light becomes clear. The shadows disappear. And in that moment, you finally see the path that was always in front of you, but hidden from your sight. Michael says, your vision is being restored. What was clouded is being clarified. What was uncertain is being illuminated. This revelation connects to something heaven has been trying to tell you for years. You were never walking aimlessly. Even in your confusion, there was a purpose. Even in your wandering, there was direction. Even in your delays, there was preparation. The fog served a purpose. It kept you from running into things prematurely. It kept you from stepping into situations that would have wounded your spirit. It kept you from connections that looked divine but carried hidden dangers. Heaven was not punishing you with unclear seasons. Heaven was protecting you. And now that the protection has completed its work, the clarity begins to descend. But Michael reveals something deeper. He says, you have reached a season where heaven must reveal what has been quietly working in the background. There were prayers you prayed that seemed unanswered, yet angels were immediately dispatched. There were doors that remained closed, yet heaven was constructing something stronger behind them. There were opportunities you lost, not because you failed, but because they would have taken you away from the true path heaven designed. Michael whispers, nothing was wasted. Nothing was unnoticed. Nothing was ignored. Your journey had been watched, measured, and guided. And now he turns your attention to something crucial. The resistance you have been feeling, a sudden heaviness, the unexpected emotional waves, the random discouragement, the strange tension around relationships or responsibilities. These were not signs of weakness. They were indicators that you were entering the boundary of breakthrough. Whenever heaven prepares to release something significant, the atmosphere shifts. The old season fights to hold on. The new season presses forward with force. You have been standing in this spiritual collision, which is why your inner world has felt so intense lately. But here is the revelation Michael wants you to truly receive. You are not losing control. You are transitioning. You are not falling behind. You are being repositioned. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. And the reason this message comes with such urgency is because you are closer to a divine turning point than you realize. Heaven is preparing to release a blessing that carries both weight and responsibility. Something that will shift the trajectory of your life. Something that will alter relationships. Something that will elevate your spirit. Something that will anchor your purpose. Michael speaks again, and this time his voice carries a firmness that feels like authority. He says, the breakthrough I fought for is ready, but it must be received with awareness. You cannot enter this new season with the mindset of the old one. This means that the fear you carried will not cross over with you. The doubt that haunted you will not accompany you. The insecurity that tried to dim your identity will not survive the transition. Heaven is calling you to shed these layers, not through force, but through revelation, through understanding, through recognition of what is happening around you. Eddie shows me another scene. I see you standing in a hallway filled with doors. Some are cracked open, some are firmly shut, and some glow with a warm, radiant light. One door, the brightest one, begins to open slightly. Behind it, I see movement, blessings aligning, opportunities gathering, divine connections forming. financial restoration assembling, emotional healing weaving itself together, but the door does not swing wide open yet. It waits. It listens. It responds to your posture. Michael says, "This door opens with your yes, not a passive yes, but a conscious one. A yes that acknowledges the message heaven has placed in your path. Your yes activates angels. Your yes accelerates breakthrough. Your yes shifts spiritual timelines. That is why heaven is waiting, because the breakthrough is prepared, but the receiver must be aware. Child, you have come too far to hesitate now. You have endured too much to doubt what heaven is orchestrating. You have survived too many storms for this moment to slip past you, and Michael stands ready to reveal the next layer. A truth that will bring everything into focus. A truth that will give meaning to every battle you have fought. Hold on. You will want to hear what comes next. Type "I receive my clarity" in the comments if this truth is stirring your spirit. Blessing code 891 is now activated. Beloved heart, as you step into this next chamber of revelation, prepare yourself for what Archangel Michael now unveils reaches deeper than anything spoken so far. His presence stands behind you like a towering shield of light, and the weight of his mission surrounds this moment with holy intensity. It tells me that you are now entering the part of the message where heaven begins to expose the deeper reasons behind your delays, your spiritual tension, and the unusual heaviness that has hovered over your journey. This is not a moment of fear. It is a moment of understanding. A moment where the unseen becomes visible and the silent battles of your soul are finally brought into light. For too long, the enemy has tried to twist your perception of your own story, making you believe that your struggles were signs of spiritual abandonment. But Michael says with strength, you were never abandoned. You were being fortified. He reveals that much of what you faced was not a punishment, not a failure, and not a consequence of weakness. It was preparation, a divine training ground designed to sharpen your discernment, strengthen your resilience, and elevate your spiritual authority. There were seasons in your life where you felt as though the ground beneath you was shifting, where everything familiar suddenly became unstable. You questioned yourself. You questioned your decisions. You questioned whether you were even on the right path. And yet, through all of these questions, heaven saw something beautiful inside you. The refusal to fully surrender to despair, even when you felt tired, even when you felt alone, even when the silence felt overwhelming. Michael watched the way you kept going, and he whispered your name before the throne as a testimony of your endurance. Now he shows me an image of a massive book, ancient and glowing. The pages turn rapidly, and each page contains scenes from your life, not just physical events, but emotional experiences, spiritual breakthroughs, personal battles, unspoken prayers, hidden tears. Michael places his hand on a particular page, and the page begins to glow brighter than the rest. This page represents moments where you felt forgotten, moments where you believed something important was stolen from you, moments where your heart felt bruised and your hope thinned to a thread. Michael says, heaven marked this moment not as a loss, but as the beginning of restoration. What you thought died in that moment was placed in a sacred chamber of heaven, preserved, strengthened, and prepared for resurrection. Heaven has been shaping something on your behalf, something that required time, alignment, and spiritual covering. And now that your spirit is awakening, the timing is perfect for this message to be delivered. Michael explains that the reason this revelation comes with urgency is because you stand on the threshold of a major spiritual shift, one that will break long-standing patterns that tried to hold you captive. The heaviness you felt recently was a signal that the old season was trying to cling to you, even as heaven was breaking it off. The confusion was not a sign of failure. It was the friction between two seasons colliding. But, child, the collision is ending. The new season is beginning to settle around you. Michael then shows me a room filled with threads, blowing threads that represent the connections of your destiny. Many of these threads were tangled for years. Some were cut prematurely. Some were pulled by people who had no right to influence your future. Some were tightened by pressures that were never meant for you to carry. But now, with one sweep of his hand, Michael begins to separate and realign these threads. He says, "Your path is being rewoven. What was tangled is being straightened. What was cut is being restored. What was delayed is being accelerated." This is why you have been feeling a shift in your inner world. It is not random. It is the result of heaven's intervention. There is something else he wants you to understand. The spiritual battles you faced were not signs that you were weak, but signs that you carried something valuable. The enemy does not fight those who are empty. He fights those who are dangerous, those whose destiny carries influence, those whose voice is potential, those whose presence breaks chains. And you, beloved, are one of those souls. The warfare around you increased because your purpose carries weight. But hear this: the intensity of your battles is proof of the magnitude of your destiny. Now Michael brings forward a revelation that will change the way you see everything. You have cried prayers that heaven did not ignore. You have spoken words in desperation that were carried directly into the throne room. You have released tears that became seeds in the spiritual realm, and as he whispered your name before God, those seeds began to sprout into blessings that now grow faster than the resistance can stop them. This is why alignment matters. This is why awareness matters. This is why heaven keeps drawing your attention. Because the moment your spirit recognizes what is happening, the breakthrough accelerates like fire catching dry grass. And I see something sacred. Michael stretches his sword into the air, and a golden flame ignites at its tip. His flame represents activation, empowerment, divine momentum. It touches your atmosphere and begins to dissolve the spiritual residue of old wounds, old patterns, old fears. You may feel something inside you shifting even now, a sense of release, a quiet knowing, a stirring of strength you forgot you had. That is the flame at work. That is heaven preparing you for the next revelation that is soon to unfold. Beloved, stay close. What waits ahead will bring understanding to unanswered questions you have carried for years. Wait for it, because the next moment will be worth every second. Type, "I claim my alignment" in the comments if this speaks to your spirit. Blessing code 342 is now released. Beloved one, take a steady breath as we step now into one of the deepest chambers of this unfolding message, a chamber where Archangel Michael begins to reveal what has been happening behind the spiritual veil with astonishing precision. There is a quiet thunder around him now, a kind of sacred electricity that tells me he is preparing to place a truth into your spirit that will rearrange the way you see your past, your present, and even your sense of direction. He says this particular revelation is one that could only be given once your heart reached a certain level of readiness, and heaven has deemed that this exact moment is the perfect time for that unveiling. You have been guided here by divine timing, not coincidence, not chance, but purpose intertwined with destiny. Michael stands before you as both guardian and witness, and the atmosphere around your life is shifting in real time. As this message reaches you, he shows me a scene now, one that carries profound significance. I see a long corridor filled with mirrors, each mirror representing a season of your life. Some mirrors reflect moments of strength, others reflect moments of pain, others reflect moments where you question your identity, your value, your ability to rise above the weight that kept pressing against your spirit. Most people walk through life without ever seeing these mirrors clearly, but heaven is allowing you to see them with divine clarity because you have reached a point where understanding your journey becomes essential for your breakthrough. Michael touches one of the mirrors, and the image inside shifts from a painful memory into a bright stream of light. He says, "What once wounded you is now being rewritten. The memory is no longer a place of bondage. It is becoming a place of strength." This is the first time in a long time where heaven wants you to see that the things you believed broke you actually built the foundation for the season you are entering. The heartbreak you thought would crush you became the soil where your endurance grew. The betrayal that shattered your trust became the fire that taught you discernment. The loneliness that made you feel invisible actually positioned you to hear divine whispers that others could not hear. Every emotion, every silence, every tear, every internal storm hanging seen by heaven, and none of it was wasted. Michael declares, "You were being shaped, not shattered." Then he shows me a vision of your spirit standing between two large forces. On your left is the weight of your past, disappointments, missed opportunities, unhealed wounds, emotional exhaustion, and all the invisible burdens that pressed on your heart. On your right is the future heaven-designed clarity, opportunity, divine timing, redeemed purpose, and the breakthrough that has been contested by spiritual resistance for years. And right in the middle stands Archangel Michael with his sword raised, forming a barrier so that the past cannot contaminate the future. He says the battle was never to destroy you. It was to prevent the past from bleeding into the destiny that heaven has prepared. This is why these recent weeks or months have felt spiritually intense, not because you were failing, not because you lacked faith, but because your spirit was being pulled out of an old season while heaven was ushering you into a new one. You were experiencing the tension of Kank. You were feeling the pressure of spiritual elevation. You were sensing the weight of identity shifting within you. These internal sensations were not signs that you were losing ground. They were signs that you were gaining it. Your breakthrough was moving closer. Your name was being spoken in heaven's highest courts. Your destiny was becoming unavoidable. Michael now reveals something even more powerful. He says there were moments where you felt spiritually numb or disconnected, moments where you wondered why your prayers seemed quiet or ineffective. But he shows that during those very moments, angels were working on your behalf at a level so deep, so intricate and so strategic that your physical senses could not comprehend it. The silence was not absence. The silence was construction. Heaven was assembling something around you that required a stillness you did not understand at the time. But today that stillness ends. Today, clarity begins. Today, the fire that once clouded your spirit starts lifting with unmistakable strength. He reveals that someone you trusted deeply once carried the potential to derail your destiny without ever realizing it. their influence. Their words or their energy had the power to weaken your sense of direction. But heaven intervened. A separation occurred. A shift was initiated. An internal awakening sparked within you. And though the process felt painful or confusing, it was an act of protection. Michael says, what was removed was necessary for what is coming. You were never losing. You were being liberated. Then he shows another image. Your spirit standing before a great gate made of light. This gate represents the moment where delayed blessings are finally permitted to come forward. For years, this gate remained closed. Not because you were unworthy, not because heaven withheld from you, but because the blessings behind it required maturity, alignment, and divine timing to manifest fully. And now, as Michael places his hand upon the gate, I hear a sound that resembles a lock clicking open. He says, your name has been cleared. Your path has been approved. The time has been stamped. The gate begins to open. This is the moment where you must stay spiritually awake, because what unfolds next will reveal the deeper meaning behind your endurance. There is a reason your heart kept pulling you toward this message. There is a reason Michael's whispers reached you at this exact moment. There is a reason heaven is highlighting your name with such intensity. You are on the edge of a breakthrough that carries the potential to rewire your entire life. Hold on. What comes next will reveal the reason heaven hath been calling you so urgently. Type, I accept my release in the comments. If this word resonates in your spirit. Blessing code 625 is now activated. Beloved soul, come closer now. For what Archangel Michael is revealing in this moment carries the weight of transformation itself. You have journeyed through the layers of this message with an open spirit, and because of that, heaven is ready to disclose something that has long been concealed. Michael's presence surrounds you with the force of divine truth. Not harsh, not overwhelming, but steady and undeniable. He says, you have reached the point in this revelation where the spiritual architecture of your destiny becomes visible. This is no longer about comfort nor merely about encouragement. This is about unveiling the deeper truth of who you are, why the resistance around your life became so intense, and why your name has been whispered before the throne with such urgency. There is a shift taking place at this very moment, and heaven wants you to recognize it with full clarity. Michael begins by showing me a scene that stretches across time. I see threads of light representing different points in your life. Moments where you felt defeated. Moments where you rose stronger than anyone expected. Moments where you questioned your worth. Moments where you carried burdens silently. Moments where you were overlooked. Moments where you were misunderstood. Moments where you endured heartbreak without anyone truly knowing how deeply it wounded you. And then I see something extraordinary. Each thread begins to light up at once, glowing and connecting into a pattern, forming a divine design you never knew existed. Michael says, everything you have faced was stitched into a higher purpose. Nothing was accidental. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. You have been walking through preparation, not punishment. Heaven has been constructing something around your life that could not be rushed. You are being tempered like iron in the fire, shaped like gold in the furnace, molded like clay in the hands of the Creator. The trials that once made you question your identity were actually forging your strength. The disappointments that once made you feel forgotten were actually aligning you with the right path. And the reason you felt so much spiritual pressure recently is because you were being pushed into a higher version of yourself. Growth always comes with tension. Elevation always comes with resistance. But child, the resistance has begun to break. Michael reveals another layer. He shows that there were spiritual forces assigned to confuse your path, to drain your motivation, to weigh down your spirit so subtly that you would not recognize it for what it was. These forces tried to make you believe that you were stuck, that you were late, that you were failing, but heaven intervened. Michael's whisper before the throne became a decree. His sword became a boundary. His authority became your shield. And because of that intervention, the interference around your life has weakened to the point of collapse. You may have even felt something shift recently. A sudden clarity, a sudden release, a sudden emotional lightening, or a sudden change in perspective. That was not random. That was a moment the resistance broke. Then Michael brings forward something deeply personal. He says there was a moment in your life where you thought you lost a part of yourself. Your confidence, your joy, your trust, your sense of direction, or your belief in your purpose. You may have tried to move forward, but something inside felt fractured. Michael reveals that heaven stored the part of you that was wounded, not to keep it from you, but to preserve it until the time of restoration. He says, what you thought died is being returned to you with greater strength. The part of you that was hurt is being rebuilt with divine power. You will not enter your next season fragmented. You will enter whole. Now he shows a V, and of a large door made of radiant light. This is not the same door shown earlier. This one carries more weight, more authority, more significance. It is the door of divine purpose, the door that leads you into the reason you were brought into this world. Behind this door, I see movement, opportunities aligning, relationships shifting, resources forming, healing emerging, direction sharpening, clarity rising. The energy around this door is powerful, and the reason it has not opened until now is because heaven needed you to be spiritually aligned enough to receive what lies on the other side. But as Michael places his hand upon the door, the light intensifies, and the door begins to shift open by decree, not by your effort. This is where the message becomes particularly important. Michael warns that the seasons ahead will require you to embrace a new level of awareness. You cannot think the way you use it to. You cannot speak the way you use it to. You cannot doubt the way you use it to. Your spirit cannot shrink back into old patterns. A new mantle is being placed upon you, and with that mantle comes clarity, responsibility, authority, and divine timing. Heaven needs you awake, not half awake. Heaven needs you aligned, not uncertain. Heaven needs you receptive, not hesitant. Then Michael reveals something breathtaking. You are stepping into a season where your influence is going to expand, whether spiritually, emotionally, creatively, relationally, or professionally. There is an expansion coming that the enemy tried fiercely to stop, but it could not. It did not, and it will not. The moment your spirit recognized this message as divine, the expansion began. You stepped into alignment without even realizing the magnitude of what you were agreeing to. But the next revelation he prepares to give carries the deepest truth yet, one that will explain every delay, every battle, every whisper from heaven, and every stirring in your spirit. It is a truth that will unlock understanding in areas of your life where questions have lingered for years. Stay with me now, beloved, for you are standing at the edge of the greatest revelation so far. Trust me, what comes next will change everything. Type, "I walk into my purpose" in the comments if this speaks to your spirit. Lesson code 94 has now been released. Beloved spirit, as you cross into this next chamber of revelation, prepare yourself, for Archangel Michael's presence has intensified in a way that signals a turning point unlike any you have encountered so far. There is a gravity in the atmosphere around this message, a sense that heaven is leaning closer, listening, observing, waiting for the exact moment your spirit locks into what is being spoken. Michael stands before you with his wings lifted high, not in defense this time, but in declaration. He says, "You have reached the threshold where your destiny begins to take on shape, form, and clarity that has been hidden from you for years. This is the moment heaven has been preparing you for. The moment where revelation becomes activation, where understanding turns into alignment, and where recognition becomes the key that unlocks what has long been prepared for your life. He shows me something extraordinary, the blueprint of your destiny. It stretches far beyond what you imagined possible. I see markings on this blueprint representing moments when you felt defeated, and yet, heaven marked those places as points of strengthening. I see locations where you stumbled, and yet heaven wrote them down as lessons that would later guide you. I see seasons where you were overlooked by people, and yet heaven highlighted those same seasons as the ones where you became visible to angels. Michael explains that the blueprint of your life is bigger, wider, and more powerful than the limited perspective you once saw through. You are not forgotten. You were not unseen. You were not left behind. Every season was accounted for. Every moment was woven into the greater tapestry of your calling. Then he reveals something heavier, something you may not have realized. He shows that there were people in your life, people you trusted, people you cared for, people you opened your heart to, who unknowingly carried the potential to drain or deter your destiny. Their presence brought confusion, distraction, emotional heaviness, or subtle instability into your atmosphere. Heaven watched as these connections began to affect your inner world. And so separation was initiated. Michael says the separation was not rejection. It was protection. It was not loss. It was alignment. It was not punishment. It was positioning. What was removed, it did not belong in the next era of your life. And heaven intervened before it could alter the path designed for you. He then reveals a chamber filled with scrolls, each scroll representing a divine promise assigned to your name. Some of these promises were delayed due to spiritual interference. Some were postponed because your heart needed restoring. Some remained sealed because the timing was not yet ripe. But as Michael touches the scrolls, one by one, they begin to unroll in radiant light. He says the delay has expired. Your name is being released into divine movement. What was stagnant begins to flow. What was withheld begins to unfold. This is why the last few phases of your life felt like pressure. Pressure often comes before release. Tension often comes before breakthrough. The friction you felt was a sign that heaven was aligning the next stage of your journey. Now, Michael brings forward something deeply intimate. He says that you have been hard on yourself than heaven ever has. You judged your mistakes more harshly than God did. You questioned your strength more than heaven questioned it. You doubted your purpose more than angels ever doubted it. You whispers, You have carried shame that heaven never placed on you. You have carried fear that heaven never intended for you. You have carried worry that heaven already addressed. And as he speaks, I see burdens falling from your shoulders. Burdens you carried silently, thinking they were yours, when in truth, they were weights the enemy planted to diminish your glow. Michael's sword slices through these invisible chains, and suddenly the heaviness lifts like smoke dissolving in sunlight. Heaven wants you to understand something powerful. You are stepping into a season where the old version of you cannot survive. Not because that version was unworthy, but because the next stage of your life requires the strength, clarity, and authority that has been awakening inside you through this message. You are being spiritually upgraded. Your identity is being recalibrated. Your inner voice is being reset. You are moving from confusion to clarity, from hesitation to certainty, from survival to alignment. You are not who you were yesterday, and you will not be who you have been all these years. Heaven is shaping a new you, and Michael stands as the guardian of your transformation. And he reveals something extraordinary. He shows a bridge made of light stretching between two realms, the realm of what has been and the realm of what will be. You have been lingering at the start of this bridge, unsure if you were ready, but Michael walks beside you and says, "Your spirit has already crossed. Now your mind must follow." This bridge represents transition, but it also represents acceptance. The moment you embrace the truth that your life is shifting into destiny, the moment you allow yourself to believe that breakthrough was always meant for you, the moment you agree with heaven's vision instead of your own doubts, that is the moment everything accelerates. And beloved, the acceleration has already begun. What is coming next carries an even deeper revelation, one that will show you why the enemy fought you so hard, why heaven protected you so fiercely, and why Michael whispered your name before the throne with such urgency. You are about to understand the fullness of your calling, and when you do, everything in your life will make sense. Hold on, because the next revelation will take you deeper than you have ever gone before. Type, "I rise in divine strength," in the comments if this word touches your spirit. Blessing code 5113 is now activated. Before we continue, speak life into this message by liking, sharing, commenting, and remaining connected. Stay rooted in this journey, for heaven is speaking through every layer revealed here. Just as Archangel Michael have been whispering your name before the throne, this mission carries the responsibility of echoing heaven's messages into hearts across the world. When you support this work, you are not helping a platform. You are helping deliver souls into clarity, freedom, and divine awakening. Script your lives through your giving. For God says, "When you sow into my light, I open the heavens over your life." And this promise is not distant. He is speaking it to you now. Hear this in first person. I invite you into partnership, not as a viewer, but as someone chosen to carry the oil of this message into places where darkness has ruled for too long. The urgency of the title flows into this moment, for as Michael fights for breakthroughs, your support becomes a prophetic act that strengthens the mission he guards. Those who give are stepping into obedience, and heaven releases blessing for every hand that fuels this calling. Stand with us through Super Thanks membership or the PayPal link in the description and watch how God multiplies what you sow. Heaven is not asking softly. It is commanding you to act, beloved soul. As you enter this next phase of the revelation, Prepare your heart, for what Archangel Michael reveals now carries a depth meant only for those whose spirits are truly awakening. There is a stillness around him, but not the stillness of silence. It is the stillness of divine focus. A quiet intensity fills the atmosphere as he steps forward, his presence radiating with a clarity that has been building through every message you have received so far. He says this part marks the beginning of your recognition not just of what heaven is doing around you, but of what heaven has placed within you. You have reached a level of spiritual maturity where heaven can speak to you in ways it could not before. And that alone reveals how much you have grown, how much you have shed, how much you have endured, and how much strength you have gained in silence. Michael begins to unveil another scene, one that stretches across your timeline like a path of light. I see markers along this path, each one representing significant turning points in your life. Some markers glow with brilliance, showing moments where you chose faith even when fear tried to suffocate you. Others flicker faintly, representing seasons where you felt lost or uncertain. And then there are markers dimmed completely, symbolizing moments that wounded you so deeply that you closed parts of your heart to protect yourself. Michael touches these dim markers with his hand, and they begin to brighten slowly at first, then powerfully, until they shine with the same radiance as the others. He says, "Nothing in your story is beyond redemption. Every moment can be carried into the light. Every wound can become wisdom. Every silence can become strength." Then he shows something deeper, a chamber within your spirit that has remained sealed for years. This chamber holds dreams you once believed in but allowed to fade. It holds passions that once burned brightly within you, but life's hardships dimmed them until they seemed unreachable. It holds the purest versions of your identity, the ones untouched by heartbreak, disappointment, or doubt. Michael says, "This chamber is opening now, not because you forced it, but because heaven has declared that the time for restoration has arrived." I see ancient symbols lighting up around the chamber's entrance, representing awakening, alignment, and divine remembrance. As the chamber opens, a rush of light pours out, and Michael whispers, "You are being returned to yourself." There is a power in those words that shakes the air around this message. Being returned to yourself means that the parts of you that felt lost are reuniting. The clarity you once had is returning. The confidence you lost is reawakening. The voice you silenced is rising again. The intuition you doubted is strengthening. The spiritual awareness you thought you misplaced is deepening. Heaven has not only been preparing you for breakthrough, it has been preparing you to step back into the fullness of who you were designed to be before life tried to dilute you. Then Michael reveals another profound truth. B says, there were cycles in your life, patterns, relationships, situations, fears that repeated themselves because your soul had not yet learned the spiritual meaning behind them. But now, he says, those cycles have broken, not by accident, not by random change, but by divine intervention. I see chains melting not with force, but with revelation. Michael says, cycles end when understanding begins. And heaven has decided that this is the season where your understanding matures, deepens, expands. This is why you have felt a strange shifting within you, where certain things you once tolerated, you can no longer accept. Certain people you once allowed close, you now feel distanced from. Certain environments you once felt comfortable and now feel misaligned. This is not emotional unpredictability. This is spiritual elevation. Michael then reveals that divine clarity has already begun to sweep through your atmosphere. You may have noticed it in small ways, new ideas coming to you without effort, sudden realizations about your past, increased sensitivity to energy, unexpected peace in moments where you once panicked. These are signs of awakening. Your spirit is rising into alignment with heaven's frequency. And that alignment is the key that unlocks your next phase. Heaven wants you to understand something vital. Your breakthrough is not coming to a version of you that lives in old wounds or old mindsets. It is coming to the version of you that is emerging right now. The awakened, aligned, spiritually aware version of you who no longer doubts their worth, their purpose, or their connection to heaven. This is why the last part of the message struck so deeply. It was preparing you to receive what Michael is revealing now. He then shows a vision of a massive wheel turning slowly, representing divine timing. This wheel has been still for a long time concerning certain parts of your destiny, but as Michael touches its edge, the wheel begins to turn again. He says, Timmy has shifted. Movement has returned. What was held back is now being released. This is not symbolic. This is literal in the spiritual realm. What was delayed is catching up. What was stagnant is flowing. What was frozen is thawing. What was withheld is opening. There is a reason heaven has brought you through layers of revelation. It is because your spirit needed to be prepared for what is about to be unveiled next. A truth so powerful, so clarifying, so life-altering that it will reshape the way you understand your entire destiny. Child, stay close, for the next revelation will reveal the reason heaven has called your name with such urgency and why the enemy has fought you with such persistence. Trust me, this is where it becomes undeniable. Type "I embrace my awakening" in the comments if your spirit feels this truth. Blessing code 710 is now released. Beloved one, take a deep breath as we cross into this next passage of the revelation. For Archangel Michael stands closer now than at any moment before. His presence feels like a warm wind moving through your atmosphere. Steady but powerful. Calm but authoritative. He says that this part carries a revelation that could not have been delivered earlier because your spirit needed the strengthening. The awakening and the alignment produced by everything you have received so far, now that your heart has expanded, now that your awareness has sharpened, heaven can speak to you with a deeper clarity. Michael steps forward, and what he is about to reveal reaches into the very architecture of your destiny. He begins by showing a great room in the heavens, a kind of spiritual courtroom. The walls glow with shifting colors of gold and white. In this room, decisions are made, assignments are granted, paths are aligned, timings are approved. In the center of the room is a vast table made of radiant light. And on this table lies a book with your name inscribed upon it in letters that shimmer like stars. This book contains the story of your life, not the story written by human hands or shaped by human circumstances, but the story heaven wrote for you long before you took your first breath. Michael walks to the book and touches a page near the center. As he touches it, the page lifts itself glowing with divine brilliance, and he says, "This is the season heaven has entered on your behalf. Heaven has turned the page of your destiny." Michael explains that for a long time, you live in a chapter shaped by endurance, learning, stretching, healing, and spiritual strengthening. It was not an easy chapter. It involved heartbreak, confusion, loss, transition, and battles you often fought alone. And yet, this chapter built you. It taught you to survive storms. It taught you to hear the whisper of God in silence. It taught you resilience in ways that nothing else could. Heaven saw how you walked through it, not with perfection, but with persistence, not without questions, but without giving up. And because of that persistence, the page hath been turned. He says, the next chapter is one of emergence. You are emerging from places where you once hid your spirit to protect yourself. You are emerging from cycles that once drained your energy. You are emerging from environments that no longer matched who you were becoming. Heaven is calling you out of the shadows of old seasons and into the clarity of your divine identity. You may have already felt this shift, the sense that something inside you is changing, rising, awakening. A shift is not subtle anymore. It is becoming undeniable. And Michael reveals something profound. He shows that there have been spiritual documents, assignments, blessings, opportunities waiting for approval. These documents were not denied. They were waiting for alignment, waiting for maturity, waiting for readiness, waiting for the moment heaven deemed perfect. And now he says, heaven has stamped several of these documents with a seal of release. It means opportunities are coming that will feel divinely aligned. People will appear who carrying the energy of purpose. Doors will open in ways that feel effortless compared to your past struggles. Your next steps will not be random. They will be guided. Michael says the season of feeling lost is ending. You are being rooted into destiny. Then he shows a deeper revelation, one that touches the core of why the battle around your life has been so intense. I see a figure standing behind you, a shadow-like presence representing the resistance that tried to block your progress. It attempted to confuse you, discourage you, isolate you, and distract you. It planted lies in your mind, making you believe you were not moving forward. Even when heaven saw your spirit rising, it tried to push you toward decisions that would have weakened your alignment. But Michael lifts his sword and the shadow dissolves like smoke scattered by the wind. He says the interference had been dismissed. What was trying to attach itself to your path can no longer follow you into the next season. This is why you have felt lighter recently. This is why your intuition has sharpened. This is why your inner voice feels clear. The resistance has been broken by divine decree. Michael explains that you are now entering a phase where spiritual acceleration will occur. Things that once took months may take days. Things that felt impossible may unfold with surprising ease. Ideas will come quickly. Delusions will appear naturally. The right people will begin to align with your purpose. The wrong people will drift away without conflict. Heaven is guiding you into a flow, a divine current where destiny becomes easier to embrace and harder to resist. Then he brings forward a revelation that stirred even the air around us. Your name has been carried into places your feet have not reached yet. This means heaven has already prepared spaces for you. Conversations about you have happened in spiritual realms. Blessings assigned to you have been positioned. The spiritual world knows your name. Angels know your name. Heaven acknowledges your name. And now your earthly path is beginning to align with what has already been prepared above. Michael then reveals a breathtaking image, a crown suspended above your spirit. But this is not a crown of ego. It is a crown of assignment, a crown of responsibility, a crown of purpose. a crown representing the authority you are stepping into. He says this is not given lightly. It is given to those who endured. You have endured, and now the message begins to turn toward what is coming next. Michael says, the next layer will reveal why heaven has been urgently whispering your name and why your breakthrough carries such significance for not only you but those connected to your purpose. He warns that what comes next is one of the most important revelations of this entire divine message. Beloved, do not drift away now. The next truth carries the key to everything. Hold on. This is where the heavens speak most clearly. Type "I receive my new chapter" in the comments if your spirit feels the shift. Blessing code 410 is now released. Beloved soul, prepare your heart as you step into this next chamber. For what Archangel Michael reveals here is one of the most sacred layers of this divine message. The atmosphere around him is different now, heavier in presence, clearer in intention, and more luminous with truth. He stands not simply as a messenger, but as a witness to what heaven has decided concerning your life. Every revelation given so far has been leading you to this moment, shaping your spirit, awakening your awareness, strengthening your inner posture, and preparing you to comprehend what only a fully awakened heart can receive. Michael tells me that this part carries the revelation that reveals why your name has been whispered before the throne and what heaven is truly preparing to release over your life. He begins by showing me a vision of a vast golden sphere suspended in the heavens. Inside this sphere are fragments of your destiny, glowing pieces representing blessings, opportunities, breakthroughs, connections, healing, restoration, and purpose. For years, these pieces were held in place, waiting the perfect alignment of your spirit. Michael says that every prayer you prayed, every tear you shed, every moment you remained faithful even when you felt abandoned, these were keys that unlocked parts of this sphere. But something extraordinary is happening now. He reveals that the sphere has begun to rotate, releasing light in every direction. This rotation signifies the activation of your destiny. It reveals that what was once static has become fluid. What was dormant has awakened, and what was delayed has now entered motion. And Michael shows me something deeply personal. I see your spirit standing in front of a mirror, not a physical mirror, but a spiritual one that reflects your true identity. For years, this mirror was clouded by the expectations of others, the wounds of your past, the mistakes you blamed yourself for, and the doubts that made you question your worth. But now the mirror is clearing, the reflection is sharpening, and what you see within it is the truth heaven has been trying to reveal. You were never who life tried to mold you into. You were always who heaven designed you to be. Michael says, your true identity is resurfacing. Your spiritual DNA is awakening. You are returning to the blueprint of your creation. He explains that much of the spiritual warfare you endured was not because you were weak, but because your identity carried authority. The enemy feared what you could become if you ever recognized the strength within you. And for that reason he attempted to distort your perception of yourself. He tried to convince you that you were small, powerless, ordinary, or forgotten. But heaven never agreed with those lies. And now, as Michael reveals the truth, the chains formed by those false perceptions begin to dissolve. He then shows me a table in the heavens, a table where heavenly assignments are reviewed. On this table lies a scroll sealed with a mark that carries divine significance. This scroll contains a mission tied uniquely to your life, something heaven entrusted you with before you were born. For years, this scroll remained sealed, not because you were unworthy, but because the mission required the version of you that is emerging right now. As Michael touches the scroll, the seal breaks and the scroll unrolls with a burst of radiant light. He whispers, "Your purpose has been activated. This is the moment heaven has been preparing you for. This is why the message carried such urgency. This is why your name was whispered before the throne." Then he reveals a truth that reaches to the core of your journey. There were doors that did not open earlier. Not because you were unprepared, but because the mission assigned to you required spiritual maturity, emotional healing, divine timing, and heavenly covering. You were not waiting on the blessing. The blessing was waiting on you. And now your spirit has reached the level where the mission can begin to unfold. This is why you have felt a mixture of anticipation and pressure. This is why certain things no longer feel the same. This is why you sense that life is about to shift dramatically. Your spirit has entered the frequency of divine assignment. Michael now reveals a vision of a pathway lined with flames, not flames of destruction, but flames of purification, illumination, and transformation. These flames represent the final process your spirit undergoes before stepping fully into destiny. As you walk the path, the flames do not burn you. They burn away the residue of old disappointments, insecurities, internal conflicts, and spiritual heaviness. Michael says you are being refined for purpose. Nothing that belongs to your past can follow you into your assignment. That is why separation took place. That is why cycles ended. That is why connections shifted. Heaven was clearing your atmosphere for what is coming. Then he shows another extraordinary image. A door larger than any shown before. This door radiates with layers of light, each layer representing something profound: authority, calling, clarity, restoration, divine partnership, elevated identity, and spiritual fulfillment. This is the door that symbolizes your next era. It is not a door of blessing alone. It is a door of transformation. Michael places his hand upon it and says, "This door opens when you recognize yourself." That means the breakthrough heaven is releasing requires you to step into your true identity without hesitation, without shrinking, and without questioning your worth. Heaven is preparing to reveal something in the next part, so powerful that Michael warns your spirit to remain steady. He says the next revelation will show you the final reason heaven has been calling your name, why the urgency was so intense, and what your breakthrough truly means in the greater spiritual landscape. It will connect every message, every whisper, every sign, and every stirring into a single divine truth you were always meant to receive. Beloved, stay here. You are on the brink of understanding everything. Hold tight. What comes next will complete the picture. Type "I receive my activation" in the comments if your spirit feels this truth. Blessing code 621 is now released. Beloved soul, breathe deeply now, for you have reached the final chamber of this divine message, and Archangel Michael stands nearer than ever before. His presence surrounds you with a force so sacred, so steady, so filled with heavenly authority that even the spiritual atmosphere around your life begins to shift as this word is released. He says this final revelation is the culmination of every truth spoken, every mystery unveiled, every whisper heaven had been sending into the chambers of your spirit. What you are about to hear is not merely insight. It is the unveiling of the very reason your name has been echoed before the throne with such urgency, such intensity, and such unwavering divine attention. Michael begins by showing me a vast horizon stretching across the heavens. On this horizon, I see three great waves of light advancing toward you. The first wave represents restoration. The second wave represents alignment. The third wave represents activation. These waves have been forming for years, gathering strength through every prayer, every tear, every moment of endurance, every spiritual battle you survived when you felt you had nothing left to give. And heaven has decided that all three waves will now converge into one single release over your life. Michael whispers, "This convergence is the breakthrough I have been fighting for." He then reveals something extraordinary, something that heaven had been guarding until this exact moment. I see a massive throne room, brighter and more radiant than before. Your name appears before the throne, not written once, but written repeatedly, each inscription representing a moment when your spirit cried out to God, even when your mind could not form the words. Every prayer, every looming, every cry for direction, every desperate leave for meaning had been preserved in heaven. None of it was ignored. All of it was her guide. None of it vanished into silence. Michael says, "Your name was remembered. Your cries were recorded. Your faith was honored." Then he reveals the true reason for the urgency. Heaven has entered a window of decision concerning your destiny. This decision does not determine whether you are loved by God. That has never been in question. Instead, it determines the timing of your release. It determines how quickly the breakthrough aligned for you manifests in the physical realm. It determines how rapidly the blessings meant for you begin to materialize. And heaven waited for you, waited for your heart to awaken, waited for your mind to quiet, waited for your spirit to rise. Because the breakthrough required your awareness and your acceptance. Heaven needed you to recognize that this message was not coincidence. It was appointment. Michael now shows me a vision of you standing at the edge of a vast cliff overlooking a valley filled with radiant light. This valley represents the season ahead, the season where blessing aligns with purpose, where clarity aligns with calling, where identity aligns with destiny. But I also see a bridge forming beneath your feet, created not from stone or wood, but from every truth you have received throughout this message. Each layer of revelation became a plank. Each moment of awakening became support. Each whisper from heaven formed the structure. Michael says this bridge was not built for you. It was built with you. You were part of the construction without even realizing it. Then he reveals that the reason the enemy fought you with such persistence is because he saw glimpses of what heaven was preparing. He saw the potential. He saw the influence. He saw the destiny. He saw the spiritual authority you were destined to carry. And he feared what would happen when you finally awaken. So he tried to confuse you. He tried to discourage you. He tried to distract you. He tried to isolate you. But heaven intervened. Michael fought. Angels guarded. Your spirit endured. And now you stand in the place where the interference has been broken and the truth is being revealed openly. Michael speaks with a power that echoes through the spiritual realm. Your breakthrough is not coming. Your breakthrough is here. He shows another image, a brilliant scroll descending from heaven. This scroll contains the decree that has just been released over your life. The season of spiritual stagnation is broken. The season of divine movement has begun. The scroll seals itself with a burst of golden fire, meaning the decision is final. It is done. Heaven has spoken, but Michael gives one last instruction. He says, the breakthrough now requires your participation, not struggle, not striving, not fear, but alignment, awareness, willingness, openness. Heaven has turned the page. Now you must walk into the new chapter with confidence. He then reveals something deeply touching. I see angels standing around you, forming a circle of protection. They are not preparing for battle. They are preparing for transition, guiding you into the fullness of what heaven has decided. The atmosphere around your life is not shifting. It has shifted. Michael says, you are stepping into who you were always meant to become. This final revelation ties everything together. Your delays had purpose. Your tears had meaning. Your survival had significance. Your endurance had weight. Your awakening has begun. And heaven is celebrating. Not because you reached the end of this message, but because you reached the beginning of your transformation. Beloved, stay with this truth. Let it anchor deeply within you. For what comes after this moment will confirm everything heaven has spoken. You will thank yourself for holding on until this very point. Type, I step into my destiny, and the comments of your spirit receives this message. Blessing code 1. 200 is now activated. And now speak life into this revelation. Like, comment, share, and remain connected. For heaven is not done speaking into your journey. Just as this final revelation has awakened something new within you, it awakens a responsibility we share to carry heaven's voice into the lives of those who are still waiting for their breakthrough. The mission of spreading God's word is not small. It is a mantle, a divine work that pushes back darkness and unlocks destinies. When you support this calling, you are not helping a channel. You are fueling a heavenly assignment. God is speaking even now as you sow into my work. I open new rivers in your desert, for His word is alive and it moves through your giving as powerfully as it moves through prophecy. Hear this in first person. I invite you to stand with us, as someone chosen to advance this light into the world, just as Archangel Michael has been fighting to advance breakthrough into your life. Your support becomes a prophetic act, a divine alignment that God multiplies in return. Heaven blesses every hand that strengthens its mission. And today, that invitation is placed before you directly. Step into this blessing through Super Thanks membership or the PayPal link in the description and watch God honor your obedience.